innovation disturbing through blockchain technologies because it helps to create more secure databases, more patient ownership, access key points that help preclude individuals or stop them from getting access to.
Hey folks, Flo here. We're at Web3 North in Ottawa. I'm here with Jelani Clarke of DeSciWorld. Why don't you tell us, first of all, what DeSciWorld is in 30 seconds or less?
DeSciWorld is like DeFi Llama, but for the DeSci space, and what DeSci is decentralized science. We're the leading information aggregation and community infrastructure hub for the space.
So that was 10 seconds. And we'll talk a little bit more about DeSci in just a moment, but what brings you to Ottawa?
Here for Web3 North, talking more about or helping individuals understand what DeSci is as a sub-niche of Web3, what is the prospects, what are the innovation capacities, what are the opportunities present within that for scientists, but also science curious, and anybody who cares about data management, whether it be AI, big data, DeSci is open to all.
So people don't necessarily think about science when they think about blockchain. I think they think tech, and of course there is a bit of a gray area between the two, but we've spoken before, and I think what you told me was that essentially science can be democratized or decentralized. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so in the same way that the financial industry can be democratized and decentralized, science can be so too. As a matter of fact, even in a more instancing case, because of the lack of need for certain regulations within certain frameworks of science, science is rife for democratization. It is regulatory captured, it is narrative captured, it is politically captured. And so a lot of these things stifle a lot of innovation that exists in science. And if I had a graph here, I would show you that scientific innovation over the last 100 or so years has completely dropped off. And a lot of that is by proxy of these stifling. And so being able to democratize and make science more open, more accessible to people, not just here, not in just the first world, but across the world, layering concepts of incentive mechanisms that funnel through DeFi or other frameworks of Web3 can help supercharge innovation in the scientific realm. And I'm not just talking about biomedical sciences, but all forms of sciences.
Thank you. And science is obviously a very like a vast subject matter, right? It touches every aspect of our life. In fact, nothing around us isn't scientific in some way or the other. Are there specific areas of the scientific realm that you would say are more ripe for disruption via blockchain?
Yeah. Absolutely. So science communication is one. So publishing, the publishing industry, ownership of scientific assets, so data management. The medical industry is by far one of those perfect ones. A good example is anybody listening or watching the media around Ancestry.com or these direct-to-consumer genetic models or the genetic tests where we've seen data breaches, hacks. Most recently, some group hacked into Ancestry 23andMe to get access to Ashkenazi Jew genetic references. All of these frameworks, these centralized frameworks, are ripe for innovation disturbing through blockchain technologies because it helps to create more secure databases, more patient ownership, access key points that help preclude individuals or stop them from getting access to it, but also allows individuals to monetize and get a part of, become stakeholders in the innovation that derives from the samples and the assets that they share freely and indiscriminately in the current world. There's no need for that. I think the world itself is suffering from a lack of donation, a lack of trust in the medical industry, and part of that comes from the opacity and the lack of transparency that exists. And so the same way that Web3 is applied to financial infrastructure to allow you to make things more transparent and more trustless, it applies just as well to the medical industry.
Great answer. And Canada, I believe, likes to see itself as a nation of science. There's certainly a lot of funding, a lot of institutions, in frankly a variety of fields. The first one that comes to mind for some reason is genomics. We have Ontario Genomics, we have Genome Canada, right? But there are many other areas, of course. Where do you position Canada in terms of both the opportunity and maybe the risks of not adopting blockchain as it pertains to science?
I think Canada has seen what happens when you don't innovate or when you try to stifle innovation. And we've seen a lot of our mind power shift south to the United States. And I think we've recognized that as a country in terms of trying to incentivize individuals through tax exemptions and through innovation programs and accelerators to bring that back. I think Canada, as one of the major birthplaces for the Web3 innovation, serves as a perfect seat to help bring that and apply that to a variety of different industries, whether it be financial or scientific. There are a lot of programs, like you said, that's kind of trying to put forward to bring back innovation. And I think having something like Web3 incubator platforms, we have examples of these with like CDL and other platforms, but really making Canada that innovation hub will bring back a lot of these participants. And so, yeah.
And short of naming any political parties, the point you made about stifling innovation, I think most people will understand what you were referencing there. Is it also an opportunity to depoliticize science?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest pain points in science is narrative capture, which just means that unless you're doing the sexy science of the time, then you're unlikely to get funded. And that's because a lot of the funding that exists in science is tied up either private companies, so VCs, or government entities. But there are a slew of individuals who are qualified and willing to participate and want to help contribute and fund science, but there are just no railways, there are no road systems that allow for that to happen. And so through applications of DeFi, integration with DeSci and other financial institutions into the scientific framework, you can help promote that innovation by just providing different capital sources for research, for science, for innovation.
Great. I'm going to take you out of your science realm just for a moment and focus purely on blockchain at a sort of a macro level. What are you watching in the blockchain space? What are perhaps some of the milestones on the horizon, some of the adoption metrics that you are watching, and why are you watching those specifically as you make your decision making, because of course you're also an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Zero knowledge proof and privacy, I think, are big aspects. So we tout a lot about open accessible ledgers and all these kind of things, and that's fantastic in frameworks that don't need to be highly regulated for privacy. So in the financial industry, you can want your transactions to be private, but they do not need to necessarily be private. In the medical industry, you need to have privacy, HIPAA compliance, GDPR, PIPEDA for Canada, and a few others around the world. And so the advent of homomorphic encryptions, where you can run analyses on encrypted data without revealing what that data is. ZK proof as another examples of these. These are really the innovation spikes that I think are going to bring mass adoption, because you deal with regulatory compliance off of the bat. And that's one thing that I really want to emphasize. In the decentralized science space, a little bit different from other niches in crypto, at least as they were in the beginning, DeSci is looking to work very closely with regulators because we have to. It is essential that we maintain privacy across a variety of frameworks, especially in the biomedical sphere. So ZK, zero knowledge proof, and all these kind of privacy solutions are really what interests me moving forward.
Great, very clear-cut answers. I like that. And finally, we're building Canada's first blockchain media. Maybe we already are, but we certainly, thank you very much, looking to grow. Why is it important for Canada to have its own media presence within the blockchain space?
I think to the point that we were talking about before, to have innovation, people need to be aware of what the opportunities are. And crypto around the world is very hush-hush. There's not a lot of positive media, if there is media at all. And I think for Canada to really position itself as a major pioneer in the Web3 space, it needs to have its own circuit of mainstream media that covers both the good and the bad of the crypto space, not just sensationalizing scams and all this kind of things, but talk about really the good innovation and impact-driven innovation that is coming out of the space. So, whether it be you guys, and I think a very strong proponent of what you guys are doing, or anybody else, Canada definitely needs its own blockchain or Web3 media infrastructure.